Players, obviously the match is tagged by a stats guy, but the players do most of the analysis, and obviously the management are reviewing the matches as well. And we come up with what we think are I suppose, the three things we can work on and the three things that we're strong at. But 99% of the time, the girls will identify the same issues, or they may even come up with a couple of items that we haven't noticed. And it all feeds into it. And we find much more benefit from I suppose, the players analysing the match and telling us what they've noticed rather than us telling them. It's much more impactful if one of their colleagues or one of their teammates can say, actually, we noticed that they go backwards on free kicks, or they go to the right corner back all the time on kickouts, or something like that. And they can come up with that analysis, and it's much more impactful, and it really strikes a chord with the team. And we certainly find it very useful then as we go into a match day to say, well, you guys said this is what we need to do to counteract it, and you guys have identified the two or three steps we have to take to I suppose, to work in our behaviour.
Okay, so how to form your own players of strategy? So it's, look, there's no one fit for all. There's a huge bunch of different ways to do it. You could be like that there on, say, on the side of a pitch with your iPad, 1-to-1, or you could be there with, say, maybe your board and your magnets, and kind of just informing this way we're setting up. Preferably, I think a lot of what works really good is maybe small groups. So if you had maybe your defenders with your goalkeeper, going with them, sitting and talking to them individually, because at least then there's not mixed messages coming in. You could have the forwards that maybe identify the opposition kickouts, how we're going to set up, or are we going to press, or are we going to drop back on them. Also then as well, I suppose you have your team meetings, your videos. We'd usually do it on a Friday night before the matches. So we'd sit down, and I'm going to talk, as I said, afterwards about how long those should be. But they can be hugely beneficial as well. And then also as well, I just touched on there a second ago, was your playlist then for individual players, and just another way. But there's a huge amount of different ways you can inform the players of it. But these are what work for us anyway.
As a manager or coach, this is where I'm still on the learning curve. So communication's key, whether that be through analysis or, I find that being able to take the iPad up to training and say to players, pulling them out, of the session, because I have a limited window of opportunity with Queens. It's a small finite time. So using the clips is great to be able to post them into the group, but pulling them out of training and saying, as the guys have said, letting them take responsibility. So did you watch the game? And this is another great thing about Performa. I can see who watched the actual game, not just who logged in. So, I was honest with the girls about that, because I'd asked them to watch some of the previous library of games from last year when we prepared to play teams. And some of them I know had just logged in and not watched the game. And you're going to get that. But once they knew that I knew, well, then that kind of changed things. And then you'll get players that will watch every single game over and over again. Just everybody's so different. So honesty was important there. And you have to be able to motivate your players positively, give and take advice, and use of language. So I know we've kind of talked about this as a collective in the whole GAA, LGFA community, but it's really important that you stop and think about what you're going to say, because, you could say something to someone that you just can't take back, whether that be to a referee or whether that be to another coach or a manager or to your players. So it's really important that you think before you speak. And sometimes maybe there's times after a match where I've been very cross about certain things, and I would have good coaches around me and they would say, look, sleep on it. And sometimes when you get up the next day, it's a much, much different feeling and a different perspective on it. So, definitely highlighted there is get to know each player as a person and an athlete, because they all have lives and there's always things going on. And if you can get to know them, they really appreciate that, and they like